I just wanted to let you know I'm also
Yeah, please.
recording, and if anything's off the record, please just tell me.
Okay.
So I wanted to start by going for more of a broad, for you personally, what is it like being back in the United States, back to Boston, back to Harvard, where you spent much of your childhood with your family?
Well, 2.5 years now. But I had an occasion to go to the house that we lived in here. And it's my first time to come back after 31 years. And the owners of the house were very gracious to allow me to enter. And, I didn't need to touch any surface just to be in the room. Then it brought back a flood of memories. For instance, there was an addition made to the main section of the house that was existing at the time we were here, where we had a television set. And this television set was where I found out that my father was assassinated. Whilst talking about my experiences there with some members of my delegation, they also felt the emotional, what should I put it, ups and downs that I was feeling whilst touching base again with a house that had a definite influence in my formative years, when I had to pause and I had to answer a lot of questions that were put on the wayside because I was busy with studies. I was busy with trying to survive in the martial law regime. Here we had the pause that enabled us to be able to prepare ourselves for what we did would be greater challenges down the line.
Thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
So also you're visiting the East Coast for the United Nations Climate
Yes.
Summit, which Secretary Ban Ki-moon personally invited you to. So with much of the Philippines recently damaged by the super typhoon, how are you as a developing country taking into account climate change and incorporating green and sustainable energy into your the rebuilding of your country?
Well, the Philippines has a very insignificant carbon footprint, which means we don't really contribute to the emissions that are happening. But disproportionately, we are getting a very serious, we're getting a disproportionate share of the effects of climate change in the Philippines. For instance, last year's Typhoon Haiyan came at a point in time when we normally don't have typhoons. The typhoon season is supposed to have been over, the rainy season is supposed to have been over. It comes in, and it's supposed to be the strongest recorded typhoon ever to make landfall. We had gusts of up to 380 kilometers per hour. Monumental challenge, affecting 5% of our population, 44 of our 81 provinces. And of course the task is not just to rebuild, but our dream is to build back better. Our dream is to end the cycle of destruction and reconstruction. Sometimes it's as simple as the overhang on roofs, wherein we use, for the most part, galvanized iron corrugated sheets. All had what we're trying to teach everybody to just bend that portion of the overhang to prevent the creation of a lifting surface that exacerbates the effect of a typhoon. Sometimes it entails moving entire communities out of the path. So we are embarking on a geohazard mapping of a very fine scale, 1/10,000 scale at this point in time, to precisely identify danger areas as to flash flooding, landslides, and so on. At the end of the day, we will try to add our 2 cents worth to prod everybody that says, look, I think to a large degree, the debate on whether or not our climate is changing or is being disrupted is very clear, no matter what part of the world you're in. Doing nothing about it does not lend it the solution. It does not afford anybody the solution. And what happens will only get worse if we don't do something about it. And we will be stating the moves that we are doing in our country to even lessen the carbon footprint that we already have. And at the same time, try to prod everybody else that instead of being caught up in negotiations on the specifics as to who should contribute what, then there should be that dialogue on the attainable right now and do what is attainable right now to try and minimize the effects of global climate change.
This is my last question. The Philippines is currently having significant issues in the retention of skilled practitioners, including 70% of nursing graduates going overseas to work. How do you incentivize citizens to stay in the Philippines, or for citizens that have already left and settled down in the United States or elsewhere, how do you inspire them to move back home?
Well, sometimes they're imbued with such a patriotic spirit, and that they see that their efforts and their sacrifice will amount to something. The head of our meteorological bureau actually is a returning citizen, and he's in charge of a project called NOAA, which stands for the National Operational Awareness of Hazards. So he's the guy who designed and implemented the system of sensors, remote sensors for 18 major river basin systems. Now, incentivize, the dream is if you want to work abroad, then it has to come from choice rather than necessity. Most of our people left because primarily there really were no opportunities back home. For instance, we had a lot of teachers leaving, not for greener pastures, but because there were no teaching positions available in the country. And they went to work in jobs of very menial status that were actually not attuned to what they had finished. Now, I'm happy to report that the latest figures, there's a start of a reverse migration, wherein 300 of these qualified teachers have finished all of the certification necessary. They will finish their contracts as domestic workers outside the country and be back to take up teaching positions as we expand the basic education system in the country. We're also working very much in concert with various industries to determine what they need in terms of skilled labor, not in a reactive sense, but in a proactive sense. What they need in 2 years' time, in 4 years' time, etc. So what has happened is, it's in my speech later, but in the technical vocational sector, for instance, we inherited a placement rate of about 28.5%. We are now currently doing 68.5%. And of course, we're still refining the dialogue process and the entire gamut of things that will be done so that those who graduate will have the best chances of really attaining a career that hopefully will all be sunrise and not in the sunset industries. Now, okay, even our returning residents during the Arab Spring, for instance, currently government is in a position to be, in a sense, a placement agency. I remember a figure of something like 4,000 engineers coming back and getting positions in a local company and various other companies. I can't say that we'll be welcoming back all the 10 million, but I really am hopeful that this is the start of getting all of our talents back. So currently, for instance, I was told that this is anecdotal. I'm still having our Ministry of Labor look into it. But there are already certain quarters that are having difficulty hiring the necessary people because the disparities in wages that they earn outside versus what they earn back home are not that great enough to tempt them to have to move out from their families, the distances, the loneliness, and all of that. So again, more and more opportunities back home might really reduce those that are leaving, and perhaps really entice those to come back home, because there are possibilities already in the country. So, but again, we want to grow the economy, we want more opportunities, and we want to go higher in the value chain of where our labor in particular goes to. Not just the traditional exploitation of resources, but really having that qualified and empowered citizenry to take advantage of all, the opportunities that are forthcoming.
Wonderful. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you. Kukunin mo na to.
Oo.